So now when we think about organizations today, we've got streaming data, social content, we have all the traditional enterprise data, we have visual, audio, video, audio, data. There's mammoth amounts of data out there in the world, and all that data coming together creates greater and greater value opportunities for the organization. What do you see as the key priorities for CDOs in managing that landscape?
Yeah, I answered this in the context, I think, from the compliance and kind of don't mess up view of life or viewpoint. Obviously, a CDO is going to have that North Star of how do I get the value of the data? To your point, if the data is sitting in a vault, nobody like what value is it creating to the business? You have to do that. I think the most important thing I want everyone on the audience here listening to know is that unless you proactively start getting ahead of these governing principles, it will put you at a grinding halt for your ability to use data. So you need to be proactive at thinking about how do we start to capture the governing and do that in a way that doesn't slow my data scientist down, my data stewardess down, but do it in a way that integrates with the compliance and privacy and ethics and all these other things that the business needs to ensure we're not making mistakes on, and embed that into our CDO processes. And if you do that, I think you're going to be able to actually use more data, capture more data, and actually go from we have data to we've created value in a much more productive and efficient way.
Awesome. Our target audience for the CDO magazine is the non-technical C-suite executive outside of the CIO and the CDO himself. Of course, we're educating and helping to amplify the voice of all of the above. But when you think about the benefits of using an automated tool, which might sound like sort of a stupid or simple question, but for the non-technical C-suite executive who's trying to make decisions about how to invest and accelerate growth,
Yeah.
why is an automated tool versus other methods for data governance superior?
Yeah. So the way I would, explain this is the world has lived for decades now on compliance being something that the legal team, and I say compliance like governance and compliance of what you can and can't do, the legal team could kind of solve that. And there was some document somewhere in a file cabinet that sort of made us compliant.
Right.
And we still did what we needed to do, and we used whatever tools we wanted. But there was that boilerplate on the contracts and whatever that sort of gave us the catch-all rubber stamp at the end of it. That has shifted to there are laws out now that sort of prevent that from being kind of acceptable, and it's moved that. So it's moved the world from, okay, that's the solution, to we need intrinsic built-in technologies and built-in processes that are sort of part of the business processes. So, it's kind of like saying, the analogy I would say is the security world went from, oh, that's just the firewall around the network, around the building, and that's security, in the 80s, to now security is kind of part of there's awareness training that you go through. There are built-in intrusion detections. There's security by design processes and CI/CD pipelines and all this. This whole world is kind of moving to that. And unfortunately, even companies that do data governance and companies that sort of claim they do data governance, a lot of that is almost, the analogy is that it's a filing cabinet over here that has all your policies and information and rules. And, oh, yeah, we do this and we have that. But it's not actually coupled to the day-to-day tooling that people are actually using. So we got to make that shift, and that's kind of what this automated governance is giving you. And you're going to see, like I said, lots of innovations and technologies here over the next several years that are going to shift us from that bolt-on after the fact to that intrinsically built into the process.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I love the metaphor that you used there. Once customers have scanned and classified data, what are the next steps? What can they do with this information so harvested?
I think the common is I'm going to say the aha moment, but you have built a data graph of what data you have as a company, and step one is, well, we didn't expect that there. It's like, what did we find?
Right.
And you typically always find data in a system that you didn't realize you had. I had no idea we still had that database over there from the blah, blah, blah. And holy crap, delete that. I thought that was gone 4 years ago. So the normal things we see happening are from that exercise, you basically identified the high risk areas or the things you didn't expect to see in certain systems. Like, why do we have religious information in the CRM? Well, somebody's putting that information in the notes field, and what are they using it for? I don't know, but it probably could be bad if not taken control of. And that's actually a real use case from one of our law enforcement customers that, as you can imagine, over the things that have happened in the past 12 months, being very sensitive to any type of bias that could go into an officer's hands going into a situation, understanding religious, ethnical, various different backgrounds about the scenario. So all those areas are typically the next steps in terms of the action items. Beyond, of course, how do we start using data and do new and creative things and launch these new projects and things like that?
No, I'm a fan. I've got a long tenure of involvement in the data community, as you know, and as a practitioner and an engineer and a leader, et cetera. And I'm a fan of the data catalog personally, but that term, the catalog, has a little textual, mystery around it. What's different about OneTrust's data catalog that makes it, really compelling?
I think the thing specific around how do I understand the landscape of governance and policies is you have this data graph, and I intentionally use the word graph because in software design and architecture there are graphs of technology. What's key to understand compliance in the modern age is not specifically, this is PCI data. Data protection regulations and modern governance is talking about the context and the correlation of data. So it's equally important to understand the way this data relates to these other pieces of data. And in a silo, this data and this data could seem fine, but when I do a join of the two to do something over here, all of a sudden I've created a massive privacy problem. I can identify someone and whatever. So, traditional thing might be I couple IP address and customer account, records with purchases. And I'm like, these are both they seem anonymous in a silo, but I could start to identify people once I couple those things together. So that correlation of information is really unique in our catalog. To help you towards, not just everybody has catalogs to discover and say, let me search for this, let me search for that, cognitive search, lots of things like that. But that correlation to relate to what are potential risk or harms are pretty unique in the way we approach the problem.